Whether we look at Nantucket's housing, or its coastline, or its economy, we can see that the island has clearly changed a great deal over time. The Nantucket Historical Association strives to make sense of these changes through its research and its exhibitions and its programs. Since 1894, the NHA has collected more than 35,000 artifacts, 60,000 photographs, and countless documents and manuscripts. We use and preserve these collections to help inspire people and teach them about the history of the island, and perhaps most importantly, to celebrate and to commemorate the lives and accomplishments of the people who have lived here. Today I invite you to join me as we look at a few of these artifacts together and look at the stories behind them. So this is the most famous work of Walter Folger, and it's an astronomical clock that, in addition to the hours and minutes of the day, tells us the month and the year and the position and declination of the sun and the moon in the sky. Walter Folger made a living as a lawyer, but he was also an instrument maker and an astronomer, an all-around polymath, and one of the most famous residents of Nantucket. He made this at the age of 25 and completed it in about 1790. This is the workshop of the famous Nantucket basket maker Jose Reyes. In a career that spanned more than 3.5 decades here on island, he revolutionized what Nantucket lightship baskets could be and developed a whole new form, the friendship basket purse, that brought new meaning to a traditional island craft. We are fortunate to have in the studio examples of his basket making, some of the famous hats, woven hats that he wore around island, and other evidence of his business. A man from the Philippines, he was educated in the United States, but came to Nantucket with his wife and children after World War II. Because of discrimination, he could not get work as a teacher, and so he took his own experience making baskets in the Philippines and took lessons with local maker Reyes and set up his own workshop and studio and became an island legend. Captain James Archer of Nantucket made this very elaborate dressing case as a gift for his wife Mary during the 1853 to 1856 voyage of the whale ship Afton of New Bedford. It's a very elaborate piece that makes use of exotic hardwoods and whale ivory and ebony, and has a number of elaborate details such as the inlaid hearts that mark it as a sentimental gift for his wife. The voyage that he was commanding was actually a terribly unsuccessful whaling voyage, bringing home only about 400 barrels of oil, when a ship of that time period and that size should have brought home around 1,500 to 2,000 barrels. Some people have joked that perhaps it was less successful because he was spending all his time making this elaborate piece. This is one of the true treasures of the NHA's collections. This is the only surviving artifact from the 1820 Essex whale ship disaster. In November of 1820, the whale ship Essex was sunk by an enraged sperm whale in the middle of the Pacific, leaving its 20 men in 3 small boats to get back to land. During the 3 months that it took for them to get back to South America, Benjamin Lawrence, one of the men, spent some of his spare time taking extra strands of rope and twisting them together to make lengths of spun yarn that could be used for utility purposes in the boat. This few inches of twine he kept with him for the rest of his life as a memento of the horrific events that happened in the Pacific. This is one of the most interesting pieces of Scrimshaw in the NHA's collections. Scrimshaw was the whaleman's art of using whale bone and ivory to make decorative and utilitarian items. These items were often nostalgic and sentimental in nature and were given as gifts to loved ones. This is a yardstick meant to measure off yardage of fabric. It's marked only a few times with 1/2, 1/8, and 1/16 of a yard in order to quickly just pull fabric past it. It's been elaborately stipple engraved with scenes of the home and of seafaring, birds and trees, and then it has the name in the middle of it of Sarah Coffin and the year 1819. This is one of the earliest dated examples of Scrimshaw in our collection, and the name Sarah Coffin links it to Nantucket, although the family connections of Nantucket being what they were and there being so many people with the same names, there were more than 24 Sarah Coffins on Nantucket in 1819, so we're not certain exactly which one received this. But we do know that it was made for someone who must have loved her deeply. This is a model from 1841 of the Nantucket camels. The camels were a dry dock system that were used to bring heavily laden whale ships in and out of Nantucket Harbor, which was otherwise blocked by a sandbar. These models were built by the local boat builders Thurber and Crosby in order to be a demonstration to attract investors to invest in this scheme and build the actual dry docks. The model is named after William H. Harrison, President of the United States, who was the Whig candidate in 1841. Nantucket was heavily Whig, so it's indication of the island's political leanings that the model ship here was named after President Harrison. The Nantucket Historical Association collects the entire history of Nantucket for the people of Nantucket. If you want to see more artifacts of Nantucket history and the stories behind them, we invite you to come visit the Whaling Museum, as well as the Hadwin House and our other properties. If you want to read more about Nantucket history through artifacts, we have this book, Collecting Nantucket, 100 artifacts drawn from the collection reflecting the broad scope and diversity of the island's history. We hope to see you very soon at one of our properties. Thank you.